On June 4, 2025, the US government shocked its closest ally by announcing a dramatic escalation in trade policy. In a move that sent ripples through global markets, Washington doubled tariffs on imported steel and aluminum, raising them to a staggering 50%. The decision was made without warning, catching both industry leaders and political observers off guard. Crucially, there was no exemption for Canada, a country that has long been the United States' closest trading partner and a key supplier of steel and aluminum. Trucks carrying Canadian steel were suddenly subject to the full force of the new tariffs, grinding cross-border commerce to a near halt. This abrupt policy shift shattered decades of carefully built integrated supply chains that had made North American manufacturing highly efficient. In Ottawa, the response was immediate and furious. Canadian officials condemned the move as a direct violation of the spirit of the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement, calling it a betrayal of trust and partnership. Protests erupted in the streets, and business leaders warned of dire consequences for both economies. For the Canadian steel industry, which is deeply reliant on access to the vast US market, the new tariffs amounted to a commercial blockade. Factories that once hummed with activity now stood eerily silent, their products suddenly too expensive to compete south of the border. Shipments were halted, contracts were cancelled, and uncertainty spread rapidly through the sector. The Canadian Steel Producers Association issued a stark warning predicting crippling long-term consequences for the entire industry. Thousands of jobs were now at risk, and entire communities, many of them built around steel production, faced an uncertain future. Union leaders addressed anxious crowds, urging the government to respond and protect workers' livelihoods. The shockwave from the tariff decision has only just begun to spread. Its initial effects are already swift and severe, sending a stark warning about the fragility of global trade networks. As container ships idle at ports and supply chains falter, the world is left to wonder, how far will these new trade tensions go, and what will be the true cost for workers, industries, and economies on both sides of the border? For generations, Canadian steel has been produced with one primary customer in mind: the United States. The proximity of the two countries, combined with a long history of economic partnership, made the US not just Canada's largest foreign market, but often its only truly significant one. Every year, millions of tons of Canadian steel cross the border, destined for American factories, construction sites, and infrastructure projects. This trade has been the backbone of the Canadian steel industry, supporting thousands of jobs and entire communities. Over decades, a deeply integrated cross-border industry has emerged. Supply chains, logistics networks, and business relationships have all been meticulously tailored to meet the needs of American buyers, creating a seamless flow of goods and services between the two nations. But now, new tariffs have upended this relationship. The cost of selling Canadian steel to the US has skyrocketed, making it commercially unviable. Prices would need to double just to break even, something no American manufacturer is willing or able to accept. Redirecting this massive volume of steel to other countries is not a realistic option. Global steel markets are already saturated, many are protected by their own tariffs and quotas, and others are simply too far away to be profitable. The US market was more than just a customer, it was Canada's economic lifeline. With that lifeline suddenly severed, the Canadian steel industry now faces an unprecedented existential crisis, threatening the livelihoods of workers and the future of entire towns. Today, Canadian steel producers are left with warehouses full of unsold product and no clear path forward. With no easy solutions in sight, they are forced to confront a future filled with uncertainty and difficult choices. For thousands of Canadian steelworkers, the tariff isn't just policy, it's a direct threat to their livelihoods. The United Steelworkers Union warned of imminent plant closures, and within days, Algoma Steel announced the first round of layoffs. In single industry towns, every lost job ripples through the community, affecting local businesses and families. The steel industry supports a vast network of suppliers and service providers, multiplying the impact of every job lost. The fear is real. Entire regions face economic hardship, reminiscent of past industrial downturns. The human cost is profound. Families and communities are caught in the crossfire of an international trade war. The US justified the tariff hike as a move to protect national security and revive domestic steel production, arguing that foreign competition, Canada included, had undermined American industry. Supporters claim a strong nation must produce its own steel, essential for infrastructure and security. By making imports prohibitively expensive, the policy aims to force American companies to buy domestic, reopen mills, and create jobs. Critics, however, warn this ignores the integrated nature of North American manufacturing and risks harming US industries that rely on Canadian steel. The debate rages: is this national preservation or a self-defeating move that will hurt the broader US economy? The tariffs meant to protect US steel have hit automakers hard, raising costs for a critical material they source from Canada. American car companies rely on specialized Canadian steel, and replacing these supply chains is slow, costly, and sometimes impossible. Automakers now face a choice: absorb the cost and lose profits, or pass it to consumers and risk sales. The result is immediate financial pain and production uncertainty, threatening jobs and competitiveness. The integrated North American auto industry, once a model of cross-border cooperation, is now under severe strain. In trying to protect one industry, the US has inadvertently endangered another. The fallout from tariffs extends beyond steel and autos, affecting jobs and prices across the US economy. For every steel job created, dozens are lost in steel-consuming industries forced to cut staff or halt expansion due to soaring costs. Small businesses are especially vulnerable, with some reporting doubled tariff bills and forced price hikes. Ultimately, higher steel costs mean higher prices for everything from cars to canned goods, squeezing American families already struggling with inflation. The tariffs act as a hidden tax, eroding purchasing power and stalling economic growth. The policy meant to help American workers may in reality cost jobs and raise living expenses. The price of protectionism is paid at home, not abroad. Canada responded swiftly, announcing $90 billion in retaliatory tariffs, targeting key US industries to pressure Washington for a reversal. The goals support Canadian workers and inflict economic pain in politically sensitive US regions. Canada also moved to shield its market, imposing new tariffs and quotas on steel from non-allied nations, especially China and Turkey. The US was exempted from these new measures, signaling Canada's fight is with unfair global trade, not its North American partner. This two-pronged strategy, retaliation and market defense, marks a fundamental shift in Canada's trade posture. It's a risky but necessary gambit to protect Canadian industry from crisis on two fronts. The stakes are high and the outcome uncertain. With its main export market blocked and global competition intensifying, Canada is betting big on green steel, a bold move that could redefine the country's industrial future. The steel industry, long seen as a backbone of Canadian manufacturing, is now at a crossroads. Facing mounting pressure to cut emissions and adapt to new trade realities, Canadian producers are looking for ways to stay relevant and competitive in a rapidly changing world. The answer? A sweeping shift to electric arc furnaces and low-emission technologies, which promise to dramatically reduce the carbon footprint of steel production. These modern furnaces use electricity instead of coal, making them cleaner and more adaptable to renewable energy sources. To make this transformation possible, the government is investing billions of dollars to help companies retool their operations. This unprecedented support is designed to accelerate the transition, create new jobs, and ensure that Canadian steel remains a vital part of the economy. Major projects are already underway, like Algoma's new electric furnace in Sault Ste. Marie, which is expected to cut emissions by more than 70% and set a new standard for the industry. At the same time, ArcelorMittal Dofasco's ambitious decarbonization plan is moving forward, aiming to make one of Canada's largest steel producers a global leader in green steel technology. If successful, green steel could give Canada a powerful competitive edge in the global market, attracting buyers who are increasingly demanding sustainable materials for everything from cars to skyscrapers. But for now, the market for green steel is still small and mostly concentrated in Europe, where stricter climate policies and higher carbon prices are driving demand. In North America, construction companies, one of the largest consumers of steel, remain reluctant to pay a premium for greener products, citing tight budgets and uncertain returns on investment. Meanwhile, high energy costs threaten the economics of green steel production, since electric arc furnaces require vast amounts of affordable, clean electricity to operate efficiently. Recent project cancellations in Europe serve as a stark warning. If energy prices spike or demand falters, even the most promising green steel ventures can quickly become unsustainable. Canada's wager is both bold and necessary, reflecting a belief that the future of steel must be cleaner, smarter, and more resilient to global shocks. But the ultimate success of this transformation will depend on building strong demand for green steel, keeping energy affordable, and convincing buyers that sustainable steel is worth the investment. The future of Canadian steel may hinge on this risky transformation, a gamble that could secure the industry's place in a low-carbon world or leave it struggling to catch up. The tariff war has plunged North America's steel and manufacturing sectors into deep uncertainty. Canadian companies are caught between layoffs and massive investments in green technology, with entire communities at risk. U.S. manufacturers face soaring costs, threatening jobs and competitiveness across the economy. Diplomatic talks continue, but no resolution is in sight, leaving businesses and workers in limbo. The trust that once defined U.S.-Canada trade has been badly damaged. This dispute is a stark reminder of how interconnected and fragile the global economy truly is. There are no easy answers. The future will be shaped by politics, markets, and innovation. For thousands of workers, the only certainty is that the ground has shifted, and the future is uncertain.